Hey there, it's Kat, and this is Brews and Reviews. So today I have a tiny little angry visitor. He's not tiny, he's a big angry visitor, but he's in my arms, which is weird because I didn't think he'd sit here for this long. Anyway, today I'm going to be giving you guys my February wrap-up. And yeah, I'm just going to talk about the books that I read in February. So this will cover the books I read for Thrillerathon and the books that I didn't read for Thrillerathon. So, ooh, how exciting. The first two books that I read in February were The House of Hades and Blood of Olympus by Rick Riordan. These are the final two books in the Heroes of Olympus series. And to be honest, I really enjoyed them. I don't want to talk too much about these books because it's super spoiler heavy, because this is book 4 and 5 in the series that's like a sequel series to the Percy Jackson series, but yeah, lots of mythology, lots of really fun, anxious times. I really enjoyed House of Hades. I thought it was a really fantastic book, and I liked the two separate storylines going on, especially as a continuation from the cliffhanger in Mark of Athena. And Blood of Olympus was good. I really enjoyed it, but I think that the climax happened a little bit too soon for my liking. Like, it just happened really quickly and got wrapped up really quickly. Because you have these big 5 books leading up to that point, it was a bit like, it's over. Okay then. So, it was a little bit of a letdown for that, but I still rated them both 5 stars because I really enjoyed them and I had a good fun time with them, so yeah. Next up, I finally picked up Trail of Lightning by Rebecca Roanhorse. This book is an Own Voices dystopian, and basically most of the world has been drowned or is having a very bad time, and this bit takes place in a Navajo reservation, and it's just really cool. There are Navajo gods, and there are a lot of interesting things that happen. Now, personally, I thought this book started off quite slow. I mean, well, it starts off with a bang, and then it gets quite slow, and was a little bit YA for my liking, but like maybe that's just because I'm an old lady now. But aside from that, when it gets to about halfway through the book, I was like, oh, okay, and then I just read it all in one night, and I was like, yeah, now I know why everyone loves it. Because, yeah, I had some feelings about some things that happened, and I was like, yeah, no, I really need to know what happens next. I need to know what happens next. Next up, we're into Thrillerathon territory, and I picked up No Exit by Taylor Adams. This is a thriller about a woman who's driving to see her mum who's in hospital, and she's driving through this snowstorm, and she has to pull over because the snow's too bad. She ends up in this rest stop with a couple of other people, and when she's out checking something, she sees that there's a child in one of the cars that's outside. It's clearly been kidnapped. And then it goes from there. And it was such a ride. I listened to this one, and then I actually had to pick up the physical book because I was like, no, I really need a copy of this because I enjoyed it so much. I know a couple of people have said that the villain can be a little bit cartoony, and I get that, but if you're looking for like a thrill ride that would just be fun, like, a lot of things happen in this, and you're like, okay, I want to see what happens next. Like, if this was a film, it would be so entertaining to watch. I feel like it would make a really good film, which is the only reason I say that, but yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed the main character because she wasn't always super likable, and she made some dumb decisions as well as some really smart ones, and I'm like, yeah, that's probably how a normal person would react to that. So yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I definitely think that if you're after like a fun thriller, this is a good one. Next up, I finished off Sixth Target by James Patterson, and this is the 6th book in the Women's Murder Club series, and yeah, it was fine. It was okay. I feel like I always have that reaction to books in this series because they're always just, yeah, okay. The first one was actually better. I will say the first book in the series was better, and then like some of them really take a downturn. This one was okay. Some of the storylines were interesting, and some of them, I've forgotten what's happened in some of them. So the premise of this book is that there's a detective, a medical examiner, a reporter, and a lawyer, and they all sort of hang out together and do girly things and solve crime. And like, the girly things is a little bit too heavy in the plot structure for my liking, and it always has been because the people who write this have no idea how women talk. So yeah, I have problems with this about how all of these women end up in fields that are so close together, but they're like so radically different, so they can all bring input to these cases, and I'm like, yeah, okay, sure. Suspend your disbelief, I guess. This is like a fun series that's really easy to read, and Yeah, I like the child kidnapping parts of this, and I like, apparently that was the theme I was going for the beginning of Thrillerathon, and I enjoyed other aspects, but like, there was a whole section in a trial that I was just so bored with that, like, I don't know, it was a very average book for me. Then I read Peril at End House by Agatha Christie. This was only the second Agatha Christie book that I've ever read, and it is a Poirot book, so it's the first Poirot book that I've read. I believe this is the second Poirot book. I may be making that up. I'm most definitely making that up. I have no idea. I didn't research that, but, you know. I actually really enjoyed this one. It felt like Sunday afternoons with bananas, just relaxing, and had a bit of, like, nostalgia, because that's, you know, a family thing for me. I definitely enjoyed it. The writing was easy enough to read, except for when Poirot kept, like, lapsing into French. And I don't speak French, so I found that kind of annoying. Also, Poirot is super full of himself. He's like, yeah, I'm the best. Doesn't everyone know I'm the best? I'm the best. You don't know who I am? Well, who are you? You're modern. I don't like you. He's just weird. He's a weird man. But it was fun, and I enjoyed it, and I didn't see it coming, so that's always nice. Next up, I read Stalkers by Paul Finch. So in this book, 30 women have disappeared, and it's basically following a detective who's trying to find out if there's a connection and who the connection is and how to find these women. You also have the sister of one of the women that's gone missing sort of teaming up with him, and he sort of goes off the grid because he's not really supposed to be investigating this anymore, and, you know, it was fine. It was fine. The story itself was interesting enough, and there were a few bits that were like super gross, and I was like, okay, yeah, this is interesting, but they came a little bit at odds with the rest of the novel. It felt very action heavy, and, you know, there were some really interesting things. I felt like there were a few like racist, derogatory things, not necessarily explicitly mentioned, but like they were definitely, like, characters were side-eyeing this woman who was black, and I was like, why are you doing that? This book was written in 2013, it's not that old, like, that's not okay. And also the main character was very invulnerable, like, he got the shit beaten out of him at all times, and then he was like, yeah, I'm fine, ready to go. He was just like live and kicking. So again, this one landed at a solid 3 stars for me, and I just don't think I'll bother picking the next one up. Because after giving it some distance, I realised that I just don't care enough to find out the things that were left unanswered at the end of this one. Then I read Don't Look Back by Laura Lippman, and I hated it. It was sucky and boring, but also so problematic. And I'll talk to you guys about this one in a Complaints with Cat video more explicitly. I will just say that there are trigger warnings for eating disorders for no apparent reason. There is literally no reason that that should even be included or mentioned in this book, and it is in a horrible, horrible triggering way. There are like just random racist terms thrown out there, and like just it was just icky. This book was gross, and it did get better like the further you got into it, but like I hated the main character and she was like an ass. It got less problematic the further I got into the book, but like I still gave it a 2 stars. And I feel like I should mention that I gave it 2 stars because normally books that I put in a Complaints with Cat category always end up as 1 stars, so like it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't particularly interesting. Not much really happened, and there were some hugely problematic things about it that I did not enjoy. So, no. The last book that I read for Thrillerathon was Dark Matter by Blake Crouch, and I did enjoy this one, but it totally fucked with my mind. So the story of this one is that a guy sort of goes out for a drink, he leaves his wife and son at home, and then he sort of gets kidnapped, wakes up, and he's in a place that isn't his own world. His son has never existed, and his wife is not his wife. And multi-dimensions, it's crazy. It blew my mind a little bit. I don't even know how to talk about this book. I know a lot of people really love it, or a lot of people who are like, it was kind of average, but multi-dimensional traveling and what happens to people then and quantum mechanics, just a little bit much for me. While I did enjoy the story and I enjoyed like the thriller aspects of it and the tension, I found it was a little bit overwhelming for my poor little brain, and I needed to sit down after reading it. So, you know, it was good. I enjoyed it for the most part. Definitely one of the better books that I read for Thrillerathon though. And last but not least, I just decided to read another random book after Thriller-a-thon, and that was Full Moon by Jim Butcher. So this is the second book in the Dresden Files. Dresden Files follow Harry Dresden, who is like a wizard for hire in sort of urban fantasy type world. He usually helps out the police, and he's got himself into a spot of trouble, and this story is focused mainly on werewolves, and it was really fun. And I think a lot of the problems that I had with the first book in the series have been solved by this one, and I was like, yeah, okay, I don't mind the treatment of women in this one, it's much better. And I really enjoyed the different types of werewolves that were introduced, so it wasn't just like, oh, your standard werewolf, he either like shifts into a wolf when they want, or like the moon is out so they kill people and stuff. There were a couple of different types of werewolves that had different sort of explanations behind them, and I was really interested in that. It was fun, I enjoyed that one, and I'm definitely going to be picking up the next one. Very much looking forward to reading that one. So those are all the books that I read in February. I definitely wanted to read more than I read this month, and I just didn't get around to it, so what are you going to do? And if you like this video, please leave a like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!